The continuation to section 7.1 is when they're talking about proportions, okay? So what is a proportion? Well, a proportion is an equation. So you have to have an equals, okay? So, and you're stating two ratios. Okay, so the form would be A over B equals C over D. That is given in the cross product property. Now, the form that is on the right side, they're explaining how the name is given. A and D are considered the extremes. So upper left, bottom right are the extremes. And the means are B and C. Those are the means. So B and C are the means. A and D are the extremes. So whenever you're solving for an equation that is in a way of a proportion, you just cross multiply, get the extreme product, the mean product, and then solve for x. So if we do that for problem number 1, well, actually number 6. So in number 6, we multiply the extremes. So what is 9 times 28? 252? Yes. Perfect. Okay. Now, what about the product of the means? 36, in this case, t, right? And then you just solve for t, which in this case, divide both sides by 36, and you got 7, sir? Yes. Okay. And that's the answer. Okay. So now, go ahead and try number 7 and number 8. Simple, just like number 6. Go ahead and try those two, please. So for number 7, x is equal to 30. Okay, now number 8. And for number 8, y is equals to 4. Perfect. Okay, so now, what if we have a problem where the extremes is a times a? 2a times 3a. 6a squared. That is right, because it's a to the first times a to the first is a to the second, so it's a squared. And then the product of the means, 3 times 8 is 24. Then by, please excuse my dear and Sally, please excuse my dear and Sally. First, you do addition and subtraction when you're solving equations, okay? Then second would be multiplication and division. At the end, it would be exponents. Okay, that would be number 3. Let me go back. So that would be the third step. The parentheses is the first thing that you take care of. Okay, so we don't have parentheses here. So when you divide by 4, by 6, I'm already giving you the answer. A squared equals 4. But then remember in section 6.5, the video, they were telling you that whenever you get the square root of a number, the answer would be what? Both. Positive and negative 2. So be very careful whenever you're solving equations. If you have a square, make sure that you get the square root, and that would be positive and negative. Okay?
And
so
a squared is like 2.
A square is like multiplying the number by itself. So if you have a positive 2 times a positive 2, that gives you 4. But also negative 2 times a negative 2, that gives you positive 4. So that's why you have to consider both positive and negative.
So if you choose the same, then it's positive. They're different. It's like,
Well, the negative 2 is also a solution that gives you a positive 4 for this equation, yes. Okay, now I'm going to add 2 problems. So go up here, and let's add 2 problems. Okay, let me add 2 problems here. The first problem I'm going to add is 9a. So let's make this 9a. And the problem is x minus 1 over 4 equals 16 over x minus 1. To multiply the extremes, you're going to have x minus 1 times x minus 1, which is x minus 1 squared, isn't it? Because it's the same thing. And then 4 times 16 That is 64. Then I have a square. To get rid of the square exponents, you get the square root of that. And when you get the square root, the square cancels out, so you're going to have x minus 1 equals, what's the square root of 64?
8.
Plus minus 8. Okay, plus minus 8. Which means that one answer is 8, but the other answer is negative 8. And then you solve for x. So at this point, I add 1 on both equations. And you're going to have x equals 7, right? Is it? No, 8 plus 1 is 9, right? So that is right. 7 is for the negative 7 is for the other one. That's right. So there you have the two answers. So x is equals to 9 and x is equals to negative 7. So keep in mind that whenever you get the square root of a number, it's going to be positive and negative, okay? Now 9b, we're going to add one more problem here. Okay, so the problem 9b, it's a little different. This is going to be x minus 2 over 4 equals 8 over x plus 2. Okay, so now notice that the extremes are not the same number. Okay, they're different. Therefore, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to write both of them. 8 times 4 is 32. And let me just copy x minus 2, x plus 2. So in something like this, you have to use FOIL method. Okay, the FOIL method, FOIL, first, outer, inner, last. So the first times the first, x times x is x squared. O stands for the outer terms. X times 2, that is 2x. I stands for the inner terms. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And the last terms is negative 2 times positive 2. That's negative 4. That's right. And then we combine the like terms. What happens when you combine 2x and negative 2x? It's 0. They cancel each other. So you're going to end up with x squared minus 4 equals 32. Now we continue. Add 4 to both sides. X squared equals 36. That is right. So x equals positive negative 6, and that's the final answer. Okay. In the event that the square root cannot be simplified, then just leave the radical like, sometimes you're going to have like a square root of 40. We'll simplify that. That's 2 square root of 10. And then just continue, like, add or subtract or whatever you do next. But this is just plus minus 6. Questions about solving equations? Matt.
Why is it that on 9a you just put x minus 1 squared, and on this one you put x minus 2 and then x minus 2?
Okay. They're different because on 9a it's negative 1, negative 1, so they're the same. So this factored is exactly the same thing as this. So x minus 1 times x minus 1 is just 2 copies of the same thing. But over here, they're not the same sign. So we have to recopy each one of them and then use FOIL method. So if it's the same, just get the copy square. But if it's not, then use FOIL method to simplify that. Okay, good question. Okay, now the last example, it's when they give you something in an equation form, and then they're saying, given that 8a is equals to 6b, find the ratio of a to b. So we have to give the answer as an a to b. Notice that, they're giving the equation 8a equals to 6b. So what you do is, let me just recopy it so that I can explain it to you. 8a equals 6b. A to b, that means a is on top, b is on the bottom. So you have to know which one goes to the bottom. So b goes to the bottom. So That's the first thing you need to do. Bring b to the bottom. B divided by b is 1, so that cancels out. Then recopy. That's going to be 8. A over b equals 6. And now I only want the a over the b like that. I don't want the 8. The 8 is multiplying the 8. How do I get rid of the 8? You divide. So you divide both sides by 8. That way you can eliminate that 8. And then it would be 6 over 8. But then 6 over the 8, you need to simplify it. By 2 would be 3, and by 2 would be 4. So then the fraction would be 3 over 4. But since they wanted in the form of a to b, it would have to be 3 to 4. And this is the final answer. Okay? So let's go ahead and try the bottom, number 10. In problem number 10, it says, given that 5b equals 10c, okay, well, let's go ahead and,
No, you mean 20C.
20c. They want the answer in b over c form. So the one that goes to the bottom is the c, okay? So let's recopy. 5b equals 20c. Divide by c, because you need to bring the c to the bottom. And let's recopy. 5b over c equals 20. Now, we don't want the 5, so to get rid of the 5, you divide both sides by 5. You simplify, that's right, so b over c would be 4 over 1 when you simplify by 5.
Can we just look at it and then just put 5 over 20 since we started telling us? Or we get
To some
this?
people, yes, to some people, they think that they can do it like just like that. They always make mistakes. So that's why my recommendation after 23 years of being, teacher, my recommendation is, rewrite it. Once you get the hang of it, then go ahead and do that. But before that, you could have careless mistakes. So just to be on the safe side, I recommend that you do this. Just to be on the safe side, yes. So let's go ahead and try number 11. But that's a good point, Leanne, yes. If you work out the problem, this is what you're supposed to have, right? You divide it by y first, and then once you divide it by y, you divide by 24, then you simplify and you get that fraction. But the answer is not 3 over 8. The answer is 3 colon 8. Because you got to make sure you follow this form right here. So if you have everything right, but you don't have that format, you're going to get some points out. So make sure you just answer the question. Mande, Dani. Yes, if you reduce it by 3, that's 3, and you reduce it, the 24 by 3, that's 8. What you can do also on the calculator, go ahead and put 9 over 24 math fraction form, and it will reduce it for you, just in case. Go ahead and put 9 over 24, 9 divided by 24. Then press the key underneath the alpha, the green key, it says math, and then choose number 1, that's fraction form. Press enter, and it gives you the fraction, which is 3 over 8. Got it? Perfect. Okay. So at this point, go ahead and, are there any questions about ratios and proportions? No? Okay, so right now, let me give you the papers back.